Kum lernen a blad Gemara. Today's daf is daf Chav. We're really, exploring the details of the malacha of regel. Now we're involved with the malacha of shein, and we spoke about that regel with shein are both two others, not malachas, two others, zikin, that behave in the way an animal is meant to behave. So therefore, on the one hand, you should have been more vigilant, so you pay the full amount. On the other hand, in a public space, what can you expect? Otherwise, if you make rules that you're responsible, then nobody will take the animals outside. And how are you ever supposed to transport animals? How are people supposed to live? So this is, you have to accept life is made up of risks, and that's how it is. Then we are up to the Gemara that Chaf Ahmed Aleph. Boy Rab Zera, about 15 lines on the top of the page. Okay. So just Boy Rab Zera asked the question, Mizgalgel Mahu. Mizgalgel Mahu, we're up to the Chaf from an Aleph, about 15 lines on top of the page. The last line is Rab Zera. Boy Rab Zera. Rab Zera asks, Mizgalgel Mahu. Okay, we said before the animal eats normally, or normally out there, Shane, he eats somebody else's food, he has to pay because he's enjoying it, because that's the idea, that's the criteria of the malach of the Av of Shane, the mazik of Shane. What happens if the item started off in one place, the animal started with the item in one place and ended up in another place? What's the din then? What do you mean? In other words, you changed the domains. Remember, Shusar Rabim, Shen is exempt. In the Shuzayachid, he's Chaim. So what happened? It started out in one place, or he picked it up in one place, and he moved it to another place. He picked it up, let's say, in a place which is exempt, but he put it in a place which is Chaim, and there he ate it. But where he picked it up was exempt, or vice versa. How does that work? Hey, what are we talking about? Let's say you have a pile of grass or hay in a Shuzayachid. The Kamis Galgal, and he made it roll over. This is the animal. And now it's found and located in Shuzarabim. So where he picked it up was Shuzayachid. He should be liable. But where did he end up eating it? In the Shuzarabim. So we look at the time when he made contact with it or when he actually ate it. Now, the only way he ate it was by bringing this. So therefore, how do we view it? Says the Gemara, Toshba Kamenir, Tony Lapria said, Masa, Lapria said in the Braisa, Masa, a peckle, a package. The bundle, part of it is inside and part of it is outside. Inside and outside means two different domains. Is Achla Bifnim, if he ate it on the inside, which seems in how we interpret that, Chayevis. No, it's Shusayachid, you're Chayiv. Achla Bechutz, Chutz is outside. Shusarabim, Ptudah. Now, what happened here? My lab, what happened? Seems like what happened here was Mizgalgel v'osi. It says mitzasi b'fnim mitzasi b'chutz. What do you mean part? So right, I understood it was either entirely in one domain or entirely in another domain. It means it started out in one domain. Mitzasi b'fnim means part of the time it was in one domain, and part of the time it was another domain. That means he picked it up in one rishus and he moved it over to the other rishus. And he brought it to the other rishus. So we see clearly from that what. But right now we assume he ate the whole thing. If he ate it on the inside, in other words, he ate in Shusayachid, even though it started out in Shusarabim, we look at the place we ate it. You're Chayiv. And if he ate it on the outside, but it started out on the inside, again, you're Pater. So notice we look at where he ate. That's how we're learning it right now. Says the Gemara, who said? If it started out, maybe b'fnim doesn't mean that he ate it b'fnim. Maybe b'fnim means it started out b'fnim. If it started out, and he ate in Shusarabim, because you don't look at the time he ate it. You look at the time where he engaged with this bundle in the first place. Chayevis, amashe b'chutz. If it started out, on the outside and you brought it inside, you put it because you look at the time when you pick it up. No, either way. Or he boys him, I can say, Kikam Rabchi is talking about a case, the Psila das Afsata. Who told you we're talking about a bundle that was entirely Shiziyach? We're talking about a bundle with long sticks of straw, long pieces, and therefore, because it's one piece, Exactly, it's one piece. So then, in that case, if he ate it in the Shus Yachid, it's as if the whole thing is Shus Yachid because it's one piece. We're asking a question. You have a big bag full of pieces of straw. If you let's say half of his inside, half of his, or part of his inside, part of his outside, whatever you're eating inside is only that inside. The rest is not part of it. So how do we view the whole bag? How do we view everything, all the contents inside the bag? So it's a very different case than Abchia's case, where it's one long piece. So wherever he's eating it, whatever is the remainder of that piece is considered wherever the part that you're eating it. So that's a whole different case than what we're asking for. So therefore, we have no idea what will be one way or another by our case. Yeah. So we didn't resolve it. Yeah.
If it's the person who wants to potter.
No. It's all the Torah says. There's no logic. Only the Rif gave a logic why she's on your potter. Because you damaged somebody's property. He ate up the guy's food.
It's sticking out the outside.
In other words,
taking his animal right, so keep it inside.
The point like this.
I watch my animal going into your property, but here it's in the way. I can't stop it from beating it.
The point is, over there it's one long piece, so therefore the other piece automatically goes with this piece here. Here, if you have a bunch of little pieces, why is it all of a sudden now it's just a yachid? Only because the animal brought it there. So because the animal brought it there, maybe we should charge the animal for where he took it in the first place. Okay. And the way we'll learn up these cases, the bag is straddling two rishuyas, but it's long pieces. So wherever side the animal eats from, that's the rishus where it's considered. We're talking about there's a whole bag. It's in one place, and you moved it to another place, and it's a bunch of little pieces. So therefore, it's the animal brought it there. Or even if a little bit was on one side, just because it was already a little bit on this side, the rest of it is on the other side is not part of it. It's only because you dragged it there. So, but how do we treat the animal? Relationship with that bag.
He starts eating it, he pulls.
So he's no, but it doesn't matter. If it's one long piece, it's as if whichever side is starting eating from, it's as if the entire thing is that side. Taking one further to that achluk sus, it says in our Mishnah. So the Mishnah is a little bit cryptic. It says in our Mishnah that if he ate something which is normal, like fruits and vegetables, he pays the full nezik. If he ate clothes or kalim, which is not normal, that's like keren. But he behave abnormally, it's like keren. You pay half a nezik. Sorry.
Goats.
Yeah.
Goats eat
They clothes.
Hanging on washing line.
Okay. But then the Mishnah says, when is this talking about in the Shusha Nizik? Shusha Rabbin is a potter. So the question is, these words, Shusha Rabbin is a potter, is that only in the case where he ate normally, because it's Shen is exempt, or also the case where he ate clothes, that even though we treat it like Keren, in this case here, we're going to say that you pay, that you don't pay in Shusha Rabbin, even though the Keren does, but then why should it be so? Let's see in a minute. We'll see there's an argument. These words, Shusarabim, are exempt. On which of these two cases referring to? Including the clothes. If you ate the clothes, even though it's Keren, in the Shusarabim, you're exempt. Why? We'll see in a minute. My time of why. This is the reason. Kol HaMeshana. In other words, who puts clothes down in the middle of the street? No one puts clothes down in the middle of the street. So you already did something which is abnormal. That's the owner of the clothes. Then the animal comes along and eats it. If somebody already made a shinya, and then the animal comes and behaves erratically or different than normal, he's potter as well. They're both potter. So that's why in this case, even though the animal didn't behave correctly, so the it's Keren and the Shazrami should be paying, but because the owner put the clothes down, they shouldn't have put it in the first place as well, therefore the animal is potter. And Shmuel says, no. If it's Keren, you have to pay in the Shusarabim. When the Mishnah says Shusarabim is potter, it's where it's Shen. You're eating the vegetables. Okay, you're potter. But clothes and kalim, chayeves. Why? Because that's Keren. Keren, you're paying the Shusarabim. And he doesn't believe in that principle that if the original guy made a shina, that doesn't excuse the animal. Rish Lakish agrees that what, like Rav, that it goes on everything, and Rish Lakish agrees on the principle. If you make a change and the animal comes and behaves erratically, it's potter. But other Rish Lakish is consistent with this view. No, but Rish Lakish says, "Stay potter Rabim." You have two animals in a public place. Achas revutza. One of them is lying in the middle of the street, which is not normal. But achas mahalechas. Another animal is walking. Boator mahalechas b'revutza. The animal that's just walking normally gives a kick. A zetz. So the animal's lying down. So that's not keren, that's not shen beregel, that's keren, right? Gives a kick. And should be chayiv. Potter. Why is it potter? Because the animal lying down had no right to lie down. So he already made a shinui. So Reish Lakish agrees with the principle of Rab. But the ones lying down gave a kick, and the ones walking chayebes because the one who's walking is doing a normal thing. And Rabbi Yochanan says, says, when do we say that is potter only fruits, only if it's shen? But if it's clothing, that's keren. Keren, you have to pay nishus rabim.
So it's the same reason.
What?
That's not normal to put.
So it seemed like just like Shmuel does not agree with that principle that it's not normal. He doesn't care; it's not normal. So he behaved erratic. The balabos had no right to put a clothes there, but doesn't excuse the animal for eating it. That's what Shmuel says. So it seems that Rabbi Yochanan agrees with Shmuel. Lame, but Rabbi Yochanan less than Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan doesn't agree with the principle of Reish Lakish that if you make a shini and the other one makes a shini that you put this. So what would Rabbi Yochanan hold in the case of the two cows, or the cow lying? And the cow walking, is a kick the cow lying. What would it be then? I feel we say paras. Rabbi Yochanan makes a distinction between the case of the paras, which will agree with Reish Lakish, and the case of the animal eating clothes. Of the inish demanchi. People do put the clothes down for a rest. They want to rest. It's carrying a heavy bag. They'll put the clothes down for a minute to rest. Glimi umetafche. They want to have some fish or luft. They want to catch, the breath. For an animal to lie down in the middle of the street, that's completely not natural. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan said, I agree with Reish Lakish in that case. If the animal walking normally gives a kick, the animal lying there, too bad that you don't have to pay. Then you don't have to pay. It's not keren because the animals shouldn't have been lying. But he says, even though it's not that common that people put their clothes in pots in the middle of the street, but it does happen sometimes, and therefore I consider that a normal shen, and the animal is potter. Then it says in the Mishnah, but let's say in a place where you say shen is potter, in the shusarab, the animal eats someone else's produce. Okay, you're potter, shen is potter, so you pay nothing. So the Mishnah says, but if you had a no, mishalemis mashenenis, you pay the amount of benefit. What does that mean, the amount of benefit? How is that different than the amount of the damage? You're potter from paying the damages, but you got to pay the amount of benefit. What does that mean? So you might have two opinions. How much do you pay? What would you have fed your animal? Cheapest grains of fodder that's around. Now the animal ate more expensive, let's say barley. So you have to pay not the amount of the barley damage you did, but you just saved yourself a meal for your animal. So what would it cost you to give your animal the cheapest food? That's what you pay. Mashanen is the benefit that you personally had. And Robert says, no, you got barley, expensive barley, what your animal ate. You have to then, of course, what would be if you bought cheaper barley? So it's 2/3. It works out, Rashi brings down 2/3 of the value of the damage. Another part of Rashi, it's not so clear, there's a machlekes in Rashi itself. 2/3, but the animal might have eaten a lot, and the animal normally doesn't eat so much. A kava kabayim. So you pay, first of all, you pay the quality of the barley less than what he ate. No, it's only 2/3 of the value of whatever he ate. Number one. Number two is, do we put a cap? The volume that a kava kabayim, that's it. And you ate more than that, you don't pay more than that.
First one I understand because saying it's got to do with the hana that you animal, and so you pay what you do hana that you had. The second one is if you're trying to make the person whole for what he's lost, why are you paying?
No, the second one agrees. You only pay the hana. The fact is, generally people don't buy barley for things too expensive. Animals, it's still animal food. In fact, is called Michael Behema. It's animal food, but normally it's too expensive. But the fact is, the animal ate it. And sometimes you might give it to the animal. So therefore we say, okay, that's your nenis now. We don't care that generally you don't do that. But that's the fact that you had a benefit, it's a hana, but you wouldn't have bought the most expensive barley, so therefore we'll make it cheaper 2/3 of the barley. And some say also a cap. Tanya was the Rabba. The price is 40 each one. Tanya was the Rabba. You pay only of straw, whatever, not the barley that he ate. But Tanya was the Rabba. What do you mean? You don't say pay the value of whatever that barley is. That one that what would you have bought? Even though normally you don't give it to him, but if you would have given to him, how much would what you spend on that kind of stuff, and that's what you pay, which is basically 2/3 of the value of the barley that he actually did eat. Yeah, and I tell you again. So according to one Piddush Rashi, they put some words in to make it sound like it's also a cap. I said, even though you might eat more, you don't pay more than that. Therefore, based on that, if you ate wheat, or davar, something you never give the animal, or davar haralo, something that actually harms the animal, then you're totally potted. There's no nenis. What benefit do you have? Okay, so now we're talking about hana. So we have a very interesting discussion. When you have hana, you buy something with somebody, I take something with somebody, and I enjoy it. What am I paying for? Am I paying for my enjoyment, or am I paying for the loss that you had? The value that was to you, what it took away from you, or the value that is to me for my enjoyment. Because here now we're saying by the animal that the animal pays if he had an enjoyment, even though you would never have done it before, because the animal enjoyment, and the other guy is losing, so therefore you got to pay the fee mashanenis. So is that a general rule? So this is a very famous sugya. It goes as follows. It's called the sugya of zenena. What happens then? I benefited, but it cost you nothing. Do I still have to pay you or not? If I'm paying you for the benefit and because it came through you or from you, of course I should pay. But if I'm paying for what you're missing out on, what you lost, then what am I paying you for? You didn't lose anything. Says the Gemara. You weren't by us yesterday with Chumah because it was outside your Chum Shabbos. So therefore, you weren't by us yesterday. Or you're outside the base of Medish. The boil and Mila Malis had a geschmacky discussion yesterday, but you don't even have such a. Yeah, we had a good discussion, a good debate, as we'll see in the Gemara in a minute. We also will have this about Basra and Abdallah. What exactly are the good things that we discussed? I live in your courtyard without your knowledge. So and therefore, do I have to pay your rent or not? A squatter. I'm a squatter. Do I have to pay your rent or not? So you want, hey, no, let's understand. It's sitting there desolate. You don't do anything with your property. The Gabla would make it. I have my own house. I decided to squat in your house. So I don't really have any benefit. I could stay in my own house. You have no loss because you just sitting and do nothing. So what's the shaila? What's the shaila here? Ella b'chotzer the kaimalager. We're talking about a chotzer that you normally rent out. And because I'm squatting, you can't. So I'm causing you a loss. And the gavra the make it. I usually would rent and I'm paying nothing. Then as a chotzer, I'm having benefit. You're losing out. What's the shaila? Of course I should pay. And no one else wants to rent it while the squatter is still sitting there. Yeah. Our question is b'chotzer the late kaimalager. You have no loss because you don't rent it out. I normally pay rent. Now I've moved in for free. Matzi Amle, I can tell you my chesartich that I caused your loss. And Matzi Amle, he said, but Hanesi, you had enough from me. You had enough from me. Taisha brings up over here, what happens all the way around? So the question really is, am I paying for no for your loss? So Taisha, we can ask the same question all the way around. What happens if I have no ano, but you have a loss? Do I have to pay for that? For example, the chutzah normally you rent out. So now because of me, you're not renting it out. But I own 10 other houses. I don't really need to live here. I'm squatting, but I don't really need to. I enjoy my adrenaline rush of sitting and squatting in your house. So do I have to pay you or not? Tosha says, I'm potter. In that case, there's clearly a potter.
This fellow has no loss.
He said, look, you have no loss. I am having sorry. I have no benefit, but you have a loss. So I have no benefit. I don't have to pay you. But I'm causing you a loss. I'm only a grummer. I didn't make you a loss. I caused you that somebody else down the street is not going to go rent your house. That's called grummer. And that's called grummer. I am potter.
You see, he doesn't have a benefit. He's obviously doing it for something. He doesn't have a benefit. He needs nothing. That's he has another option.
Yeah,
but maybe he's enjoying giving this guy more time. He's having some.
That's not called benefit. That's not a monetary benefit.
You know what that's like? It says that you don't pay them to let out your anger, you vent your frustration. You know,
you're right. Well, then we have on Shabbos. Then according to some, the reason why you have to pay, why do you have to pay? Sorry, why should you be part of and pay? Because it's like you're going to do really, I should be paying. But don't be a schlechter mensch. It costs you nothing. Why don't you help me? But here's the other way around. I'm having so here. I am not having hana, but you're losing money. So take the hold you a potter because I have no. What am I paying for? I am calling you damage. I'm a grummer. Other Rishonim agree. They say mefedas you have to pay. No question. We want to talk about it because this is called garmi. There's two levels. This is a direct cause rather than an indirect cause, and you have to pay. Let's continue about it. So that'll be discussion. You have pleasure. So Rambam said I wasn't there, but I'll just tell you. So how much we just learned. I must listen. So which version you're referring to? If you serve me, then I'll tell you. He took his handkerchief from him and he folded it. Somehow or another, that if you somehow or another are going to act as if you're bottled to me, I'll give you a response. So he folded his kerchief. It said, if the animal had hano, even though you partner Rabim, Mishalem is Mashaneni. What does that tell you? That the main thing you're paying for is hana. Omar Rava says Rava, how this person is not sick, he doesn't even realize how lucky he is. Gavra the Mori Sayah. He doesn't even realize how lucky he is that the Abish is constantly helping out. So therefore he's a good person, but he's totally wrong answer. That Abchizdik has such a respect for him that even though it didn't make sense his answer, Abchizdik accepted it. Didn't argue with him. Why it doesn't make sense? In our mission, the animal is having hana, and he caused the guy a loss. Of course, you have to pay something. But our question was, if I'm moving into your house where you wouldn't have rented it anyway, so you have no loss, but I'm having a loss, do I pay that? In our mission, the animal ate the guy's bali or whatever, so therefore it caused him a loss. Of course, that's a different case altogether. Everyone agrees that there's a chas, so you got to pay. But Rabbi Chama, he understood. Stam paid his b'shus Rabbi Mavkuri Mavkuru. Rabbi Chama understood that paytas, if you leave paytas on the street, you probably gave up hope on it. So therefore, there's no real loss anymore. Because if there's no, so what do you mean no real loss anymore? If there's no real loss, then who's he paying to? It says in the Mishnah, Mishalem is mashanenis. You pay the hana the animal had, but to whom? If the owner was mafkid the payers, there's no owner. So Tay says not that he was mafkid, he was miyayish. He abandoned. If he left it on the ground, he abandoned really hope of getting it. So everyone asks, what's the difference? Yish means it's no longer yours. So from here they bring a raya that Tosfos holds, which we'll learn of Samar Zayin, above a big machlek is nachreim. Is yish the same as hefker or not? When I abandon hope, does that mean I gave it away to the whole world? It's no longer mine. Tosfos clearly says not so. What does Tosfos hold? Tosfos seems to hold that yish means it's still mine until somebody makes a proper kinyan and takes it. But until then, hefker, I gave it away to the world. Yish, I'm walking away from it. What do you mean walking away from it? You made a kinyan a long time ago to acquire it. How did you sever your ties with it? Someone has to pick it up and make a kidney. So the animal comes along and eats it. The animal is eating your thing. But because you already were mayayish, it's a step lower than a normal case where it's still, where we're talking about here, your house and so on. Okay, let's see the Gemara. Anyway, tonight we learned about Basra, Hamakif, Chaveira, Mishalish, Ruchaisa. Somebody, Big Machlei Rashi knows how to learn this. Ruvain owns a number of properties. And right in the very epicenter of those properties is Shimon's field. Now we wanted the wild animals roaming Ganavim, so Reuben builds a fence at the perimeter of his property, but he also builds a fence between him and the inner property. So Rashi learns we're focusing on the fence between him and the inner property. According to Tosfos, we're talking about the outer fence and the outer property. There's no fence between these two, but to keep the animals away. So the guy in the middle is actually benefiting either from the from the wall in the exterior, or especially from the wall in between. So I'm not going to show that. Let's say if Reuben was surrounding him, makes walls on three sides, but God did a set of shaylas and then he made the first three fences, but the fourth side is wide open. So then the guy in the inner circle, in the inner field, doesn't have to pay. He has no benefit. Just one side wide open. But if he built all four sides, it sounds like in being fur, then the chayv has to pay. Why? He didn't do anything because he's having hana. It seems that this guy had hana and this guy loy chaser yechayv. So according to Tosfos, loy chaser is because he's building a fence outside of his perimeter. Loy chaser. According to Rashi, a little bit harder to understand. What do you mean? The whole fence, as Tosfos asked, the whole fence is between the inner guy and the middle guy. So what do you mean loy chaser? I'm only building a fence because of you. Anyway, shiny husam normally ad garan for the kefir say you make me build an extra wall. So according to Rashi, that's exactly what he's saying here. The whole wall between me and you is for that very reason. So of course it's chaser. And therefore this zen is a chaser. Or according to Tosfos, if your field wasn't there, my field would be closer together, and I wouldn't need such a big wide expanse. And because you have to build a much larger fence, and that's why hakofi yeseda, according to Tosfos, means extra wall. According to Rashi, the whole entire wall is extra. Why do I need a wall between me and you? So that very Mishnah said disagrees. He says, "Imam Nikiv the Nikiv stood up and made the fourth wall. The Galganos Hakol. Then the Nikiv." Only if he showed that he demonstrated that he's happy by spending money, then we say that you pay. He pays not only for that wall, he pays for other three walls as well. Time they got the nikah market potter. According to base at least the market, if the market done a potter, I zenen is a chaser, shmamen zenen is a chaser. Look, we see again, zenen is a chaser potter. A little bit hard to understand the Gemara. You just explained that it is chaser. You just finished explaining here that it's called chaser because there's a little extra wall or it's a wall between them, and the Gemara is still calling it loy chaser. The guy in the inner said, "Who's have to have a wall made out of concrete or bricks? I could have built a wall, just a little pale fence, whatever, twigs. It would have been good enough." In other words, why it's the Gemara calls it a chassid? It's not a full chassid. The guy had to build a fence anyway. it's not like chaser at all. So it's sort of in between. So from one, so some call it chaser, and obviously obviously considered like chaser. So what are you saying?
He's locking himself in.
Oh, well, he has a doorway or something to get out. Exit. Tosh coming here. Abayis Valia. Excuse me. Anybody would see it. Abayis, for first floor Valia and the ground floor and upstairs. Shoshnai Shanofa collapsed. Balila Balabayis, leave us. Let's rebuild the house. We're in the right side. I don't want to spend the money and build another again. So the Balaliyah can build a ground floor. The Yesh will live there until the guy, the owner of the ground floor, pays him out for his expenses. He only has to pay expenses. But he doesn't have to pay him the rent for what he spent there. Shmam doesn't prove that Zenen of Zelachas. The guy upstairs is having a noah, right? He's from the ground space. The guy, the owner of the ground space, is Lechas because he wasn't interested in rebuilding it. And the din is yapata. He doesn't have to pay any rent for the time he spent the time on the ground floor. Isn't that zenene v'zelech chasen? And you ask when that what the main thing is chasen is loy chasen yapata. The beisel aliyah mishtabed. There is different. Why is it different? Because the beisel aliyah mishtabed, the guy downstairs has a debt to the guy upstairs. They're like disparate people. I moved into your house and squatted. He said, even in this case, if I live in the courtyard of my friend, he argues, he said, you do have to pay rent. The guy downstairs has to pay rent. Has to pay rent. Now, at least, you see, clearly he holds the guy, the owner of the downstairs is loy chasa because he has no intention of rebuilding it. He's not planning to live there. And yet you're making the guy upstairs pay rent. So zenene, and you chayiv. Because it's a brand new house, and now it's lived in, and he's making the walls black from the smoke and everything else. So there's wear and tear, there's depreciation. So it is chaser. But he can't live in there. Ultimately, the guy downstairs has to pay him for the expenses, and then he moves in. But it's chaser. Every day you're living there, you make it look used. It's no longer brand new. Exactly. So depreciation. And a couple of years ago over here, you could have claimed your entire depreciation from day one. But there's depreciation. What's the percentage of depreciation now? A house. 15%, 10%, 20%.
Just to fit out the house itself doesn't get
no depreciation now. Okay. He said, they sent it about me. What does he think about Zech? And he gave three expressions. What did they do to him? What loss? What damage? No, he's covering the three questions we just asked. And each one he says, if it's loy chaser, what are you paying for? You didn't cause any damage. So they ask the same question. What he thinks, he sees a very engaging question. Ask all the different people. Sorry. They asked the Rabbi and he said, let me think about it. But he didn't answer them. Again. I'm a cool high. You guys are so desperate to know. You don't think if I would have figured it all out, I would have told you? You don't have to pay any rent. Rabu said, name Rabbi Yochanan, you have to pay. What's going on here? It doesn't make sense. How could two Amoraim argue Rabbi Yochanan said? So he's saying that Abu didn't hear Rabbi Yochanan. He just gleaned it from something that he said. And he made a mistake. Rabbi Yochanan clearly said so. What, he contradicted himself? He learned it from a cloud. What's a cloud? We learned not tal even if the Gabbai, for example, took a stone. Know about the Gabbai, who has a right to have Hegdish things in his house, because he's the Gabbai of the Hegdish. If he took a stone, remember, if you're using it for your own purpose, you're moil, you're stealing. He took a stone or a beam of Hegdish, he's not, if he took it and put it somewhere in the house, he's not moil, because it was always in the house. He has a right to have it in his house. There's no shina here. He's not stealing. But he gave it to his friend. So his friend was koinit. And the Gabbai has a shus to give it, it's not a ganef. And the guy who took it, not knowing that it was Hegdish, was Moyle, remember the Shoigig. The guy who took it is Moyle, stealing. In this case here, he was the one who's Moyle and not the Chaver. Because he gave it to the friend. So the Gabbai, I guess, what do you call it? So the Gabbai is the one who's Moyle here. Rashi says is the guy who took out the chul in his moil, and not the guy, but the guy had the right to give it to him. But if let's say the guy built it in his own house, if the guy's allowed to have it in the house, but not to build it. If he built it in his house, but he had no hanor from it, okay. But if he built it in his own house and he had hanor, the value of a pruta, so he's using something of hegdish for some personal benefit. That's already called stealing. That's called stealing. Only shenichal place it like loose on the skylight, which means it's easy to remove. So because there's no shini in the beam, so he's not chayiv me'il, he's not considered a ganef until he sits under that beam and he has personal use, block the sun, and the value of a pruta. If he wanted to put an umbrella there, that's what it cost. But if he actually placed it permanently into the wall or something in his house, that already is a shini. That's already a shini. He changed it from being a portable item to a fixed item, and then he's moil even if he has no hanor whatsoever. The Yosef Rabbi will come to Yechabichu, says something for Rabbi Yechon will come and Shmuel, and he said in Shmuel, "I said from here we can learn out Hadar b'chatz chavesh lemedait. If somebody lives in somebody else's house without his knowledge, Hegdish had no idea what the Gabbai is doing. So Hegdish had no idea what the Gabbai is doing. Yet you tell me if the Gabbai had some benefit, the value of a pruta, it's as if you're stealing. So we see Zenana. Even though Chassid Hegdish had no idea, nevertheless you consider it's as if you're having hanor, something tangible, and you're chayiv. B'shasik le'Yechon made no comment. So he must be, he agrees with this law. The lawyer, but he made a mistake. As dismissed it out of hand, he didn't feel that he even had to respond. Why? Rabba says, by Hegdish, who owns Hegdish? The Eibishter. Where is the Eibishter? Everywhere. No, not that, but you can't say that whatever you're doing at home, Hegdish has no idea. Hegdish is the Shechina, wherever the Shechina is, everywhere. So therefore, it's Zenena and V'zeh Choser, and actually, Zenena and the base and the Hegdish knew about that you're using it for your own personal use.
Hegdish. Built it into your own use. Is the hanor the fact that
you're talking about Hegdish now, or just generally? Stealing. If you're stealing, you don't have to put it in your beam. The moment I stole it.
I'm asking of what is the hanor that he has? Is the hanor that I now have something holding my roof to shade me from the shelter?
A Ganav doesn't need hanor. No, but you're mixing things up. A Ganav doesn't need hanor. If I steal something, you have no hanor from you. I got to pay you for it. That's Moil is Ganav. This is a Gneva. But we're saying the Gabbai had a right to keep property of Hegdish inside his house. So he's not a Ganav for keeping it there. When does he become a ganef? When he changes it. When does he change it? When he puts it permanently into his wall. That's one opinion. The other opinion says no, that just having hanor from it, even he left it loose. If he had hanor from it, the value of a pruta, so that's already considered merely you're stealing from Hegdish. But we asked the question, Hegdish has no idea. So the is then nene. In other words, when do you become a ganef if you have hanor? Even though you didn't make a shini in it.
Together of the hanor itself. Is his hanor from the fact that now he has a shelter over his head, or is his hanor he saved money? I don't have to buy my own beam to put up. What's together of hanor?
It could be both, but generally hanor by an animal. We said before, you don't have to spend more money. And the hanor of pruta is what would it cost for you to get a replacement to have something else on your roof to block the sun. So that's hanor. We'll just quickly. Same question. If what's it din? Adhochi passed away. His son Rabba said, "This is my father said name of Rabba. You don't have to pay money. You don't have to pay money because then you are potter." And then he starts another thing, which we'll talk about tomorrow.
A lot of room for abuse.
Which one?